Hi, my name is Mary Denham, and I am a full-time DSPS counselor here at San Jose City College, and I will be answering some questions from a communications student here on our campus who's taking a communications intercultural. Is it intercultural?
Intercultural communications.
Okay. So go ahead.
So, what are some ways that I can communicate with somebody who has a disability in a way that is appropriate and non-offensive?
Well, I think the first thing you need to keep in mind is that, a person with a disability, they're a person first. When I meet my students with disabilities, I kind of focus on, exactly what services they're coming, what exactly they need to be successful here at school. So I don't really judge them based on their disability. I treat them in a very respectful, empathetic manner, and I just acknowledge them as a person first, and then the disability comes into place when it impacts their access to education. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's when we need to look at the disability coming from my perspective. I'm a DSPS counselor, and that's when the disability will come into play. And I look at the disability as what limitations is this disability imposing on the student's access to education, and what kind of accommodations can we provide that will allow them equal access to their education. Mm-hmm. So that is how I look at a person with disability, coming from my chair here.
So as far as accommodations, of course, there's the Americans with Disabilities Act. What kind of stuff do we do here at San Jose City College to help these people with disabilities?
Well, depending, there's just such a huge variety of disabilities that we see on a daily basis here. But the predominant, I would say the most common disability here on our campus is students with learning disabilities. And those include like processing issues, students that might have issues with processing math, or print disabilities, mm-hmm. or visual disabilities. So what was the question? Sorry.
What are some things that we do here to accommodate people with disabilities?
So some of those things would include if it's a person that's coming in with a processing issue, a lot of times we will accommodate them by giving them double time on the test. Mm-hmm. So if the class gets an hour, then they will be provided double time, which will be 2 hours. That's one of the many accommodations that we provide here, based on that particular person's limitations. Because just because a person comes in with one specific disability doesn't define that person. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of variability in a disability. Yeah. So when they're coming in, I don't put them in a box. Oh, you're learning disabled, you go here, you get this, that, and that. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of variability. They all have different personalities. They all come from different cultures, different languages, mm-hmm. possibly, different educational goals. So coming from this perspective, I see how their specific disability impacts them individually. Mm-hmm. And I don't put them in a box. I look at the whole person.
Yeah, going back to what you said, the person and not the disability.
Exactly.
Great. Let's see, what would be another one? As far as do's and don'ts, what would you say when communicating with somebody who has a disability? What's a big
never make assumptions.
Never make assumptions.
Never make assumptions. Don't your preconceived notions. I would question those. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't highlight their limitations. Like if they're in a wheelchair, just having basic human sensitivity to another person, and not judging them mm-hmm. in a negative manner. Again, looking at them as a person first, and non-judgmental.
Yeah,
non-judgmental, definitely. Like assuming that, just because they can't process math, that they're stupid. Mm-hmm. Making that preconceived notion when that's not a fair assumption at all. So there's more to a person than their disability.
That's right. Yeah.